Hello. It's been a little while. Hi. I've been away from you for months now, and it's been a long several months. It's been very productive, very fruitful for me, and I trust that many good things have happened here while I was away. Most important, as far as I can tell, here we are. Once again, here we are. We are here together. We have come physically together into one space where we can feel and touch each other. We can look at each other in the face and say hello. And we can say, it's good to see you. And that's the most important thing that I have to say. It's good to see you. Good to see every person here. Good to be physically with you. I've spent a lot of the past few months in what we call the world. We have something that many people refer to as the world. And some people, the radicals among you, sometimes even call it the real world. Yes? The real world. I hear people talk about it. Sometimes people come to the monastery for a week, and then at the end of it they leave and they say, they proclaim their fundamentalist doctrine, which is as follows. Well, now I'll go back to the real world. Yes? So, first of all, that's a radical fundamentalist view, because this world that many of us live in is many things, but it is not real. It's artificial, it's constructed, and we constructed it. We were fully participatory in creating this world. It's extremely fragile. And if we don't continually work on maintaining it, just as it is, it will fall apart. That's not something that's real. That's something that's fabricated. So I'll just call it what it is. I'll call it the fake world. So I've spent the past several months mostly in the fake world, which starts to look real if you live in it for a little while. It looks as if it's the only possibility, and as if it's something we can count on. So in this fake world, of all of the characteristics that I saw, of all of the characteristics that I felt, of all of the characteristics that impacted me, that moved into, caught in my heart, the one that is most substantial is loneliness. This world is lonely. This is a lonely place. I think it's the loneliest place that's ever existed, actually, in all of human history. This modern society is a lonely place. And we've tried to do things about it, like make social media so that we can connect with each other. I know someone who was actually someone who actually made the internet. We talk about people who built the internet and make it as a joke, but this is someone who actually did build the internet. And he said that in doing that, he wanted to connect everyone. That was his goal. He wanted to connect everyone. Well, he tried, well, let's face it. He acknowledges it. He failed. And now he's taking the money that he made by building the internet, and he's building a place where people physically come together so that they can connect. Because the thing he built did not connect people. On the contrary, the more time we spend on the internet, social media, the more lonely we are. It's sort of the fake world. And I've seen that when the better... I actually spent some time on Facebook over the past few months. Yep, about maybe 30 minutes. and I gave up on it. But I noticed in that short time that the better a person's life looks on Facebook, the worse their life is. There's a really clear correlation there. When it looks good on that, then you know there's something wrong in the real world. So we have a fake world. We also have a fake world, and in interacting with that, and in my work over that time, and in fact in my work over the past several years, I've found that loneliness guides the way. And so we have created many ways to try to overcome that loneliness, and by and large we have failed. And we've come to the point now where for the first time in the history of studying the subject, young people under the age of 30 are deeply lonely. Young people are the loneliest that they have ever been in the history of these studies. And that hasn't been a consistent trend. It's more recent. There's an interesting legend, a myth, lore, a teaching, a vision given by the Buddha, Gautama Buddha, who lived in India about 2,500 years ago, at a time when community was a given. Not like today. Nothing like today. Some of us who have lived in other places know that the individualism of our culture is an oddity. It is strange in human cultures. That we see ourselves as individualistic is a new invention. And I think it serves the power structures well. One of the most significant strategies for gaining power in all of human history has been called divide and conquer. Yes, we have divide and conquer as a basic way to gain power over a population. And we use that in many cases in ways that we can see politically around the world and also in this country. But it seems that the best possible way to gain power is to divide everyone against everyone. And there's a term for that, when everyone is divided against everyone, and it's called individualism. That's the term, called liberal humanism. And it means, well, what should I do? I should do what I want to do. That's what. I should do what I want to do. That's the supreme authority in my life. I am. My personal feelings about what I want are the most important guide in my life. So that's where we've come to, and because of that, we've lost each other. We've lost our connections, we've lost our friendships, we've lost our communities. And we've even come to see it as so ordinary that we have started to attribute this ethic, this ethos, this worldview to the Buddha himself. We believe that he said things like, and I've seen quotes. I was actually talking to someone about Nelson Mandela recently, and that many quotes are attributed to him that he never said. And he was very wise, and so we think of something that we want people to listen to, so we say, well, if he said it, and then they'll listen to it, because he was wise, and I don't yet have that credibility, so let me put it on him. So it happened a lot to him, but it's actually happened, I believe, more to the Buddha than to anyone else. You can find that the Buddha said virtually anything. Anything that people believe, they just attribute to the Buddha. And then have the authority to act on it. Because the Buddha said it, after all. So one of the things, you see that the Buddha apparently said things like, you can't help anyone until you help yourself. Yes? You can't love anyone unless you love yourself? Yes? People say that the Buddha said things like that. The Buddha never said anything like this. And furthermore, these are lies. These are completely incorrect statements. There's no evidence for it, and in fact, everyone here has many instances in their life of evidence to the contrary. We all know that we can love other people, whether we happen to be loving ourselves at that moment or not. Furthermore, because we love those people, we often learn how to love ourselves. By helping other people, we gain confidence. We help ourselves by doing that. Immediately, by helping someone else, we become happy, which is a way of helping ourselves. So on and on, we can come with lots of examples. It's amazing that we nonetheless believe these fabrications, these deceptions, forgetting the importance of connection with each other and forgetting the significance of love as precisely the thing that doesn't distinguish between self and other. We think that we believe things like you can't love someone else unless you love yourself. Thinking that love is somehow subordinate to the distinction between self and other, that it plays by those rules. It does not play by those rules. It transcends those rules, and that's its basic characteristic. So, rather than attend to that, we believe in this strange individualistic deception. Because of that, we become lonely. Because of that loneliness, we become depressed, we become anxious. Depression and anxiety feed on each other, make us less capable of connecting, and so we become more lonely still until we find ourselves to be, in fact, alone. And this has been, this realization for me, this experience for me, this journey for me, has been terribly painful on a very personal level, to the point of exhausting me. If we go back then to another time and another place with another culture, the Buddha speaks about this in a totally different way from how we want him to have spoken about it. He said things like, friendship is the entire path. It's through friendship that we gain the path. And because of the path, we can become a true friend. That friendship is the beginning, the middle, and the end of this path. It's the entire path. Friendship is. He didn't say, hey, look out for number one. Because after all, until you take care of yourself, you can't take care of anyone. He never said that. It's a totally different approach from the one that we take for granted now. And he made this point very clear in a certain, we'll say, vision. He said that a long time ago, many, many years ago, a long time ago, longer ago than we can understand, we lived in a world where we didn't take more than we needed just today. We took what we needed for today and no more. But then somebody thought, well, now hold on just 1 second here. Why don't I just take twice as much as I need today, and then I won't have to go out to get stuff tomorrow. I'll just take twice as much food as I need today, then I can eat it tomorrow. It's a great idea. And so they started to do that, and other people saw them do that, and so they did it. And then soon enough, there wasn't enough food to go around anymore, and there was want. And so, because of that, there was theft. And so, because of that, there was deception. There were lies told. Because of that, there was punishment. Because of that, there needed to be leadership. Needed to be someone to manage all of this. And we eventually descended into the place where we were 2,500 years ago. And then he predicted that this path, this trend will continue. Things will get worse and worse. People will follow ethical codes less and less. People will deceive each other more and more. There will be more and more division in the world. We'll mature less and less through life. We will come to the point, he said, when the only flavors that will be served in the world are sugar, salt, and fat. And things will get worse and worse until finally we come to the terrifying period in which swords will appear in everyone's hands, and we will arbitrarily kill living beings in a state of constant fear and hatred. So, are we at that point in the vision now? I don't know. One interpretation, to tell you the truth, of this swords will appear in everyone's hands part of the vision is simply that that represents democracy. A democracy that is responsible for the destruction of more life on this planet than any other civilization in the history of the world, that being ours. A democracy of people who pay the government to produce weapons of mass destruction designed to eliminate life as we know it, our nuclear arsenal. Is that what it means? I don't know. I can't tell you that. But we have come to a point of terrible suffering, mind-bending suffering. There are a lot of good things that are happening in the world. We've solved a lot of problems, but we've needed to pay a big price for those steps forward. We've paid the price of more people depressed, anxious, lonely in our society than in any other for which we have statistics, this modern civilization. Diseases that our civilization has created that haven't existed in any other, such as eating disorders. An overwhelming loneliness so powerful that it predicts one's health and longevity better than anything else, including things like eating habits, exercise, alcohol consumption, smoking. Loneliness is an excellent predictor of health, well-being, and even longevity. We've come to this place. So what happens next? And the vision does continue. The vision does continue. And he says that there will be certain groups of people who come together and remove themselves from this destructive civilization, and then, and nonetheless are afraid, are sad, are concerned, are insecure. But as time passes, those people who survive will have a change of heart. And something will happen that hasn't happened in a very long time. A very long time, he says. Something will finally happen and it'll change human history. Completely change human history from going in a direction of the destruction of life to the direction of peace on earth between all living beings. And what is that shift? It's very clear. It's that there comes a time when people look at each other and think, it's good to see you. That's it. When people meet each other and are glad to do so, that's when history changes. That's when we stop destroying life on Earth and start saving it. When we come out of our little personal cave, our personal story, our personal version of things in which we're the victim and we have to protect ourselves, when we're allowed to feel what we feel, but we don't turn it into a story of, I hate you, we turn it into a story of, I'm so glad that I'm not alone. I'm so glad to see you. It's wonderful to see you. I've missed you. That is the shift that this community is all about. We come together here in this room. We come together in the monastery. We come together maybe in a coffee shop or for lunch or something outside of this schedule. And yeah, we might meet someone and think they're annoying in many ways and inadequate in others. We might live with them. That might be our community. And we see all of the reasons that they aren't the person we wish they would be. But that's all fine, actually. That actually doesn't matter. And in terms of the loneliness studies, the question for loneliness and its impact on you is not, do you have people who you like? Whether you have people in your life who you like has virtually no impact on your health and well-being. The question is, do you have people in your life who you love? And that's a big difference. And too often we choose people to spend time with who we like and don't love, rather than spending time with people who we love and don't like. But if you have someone, whether you like them or not, if you believe that when you're in trouble, when you're vulnerable, they'll be there for you, that's the greatest jewel. That's the greatest treasure in our lives. I would much rather be with one person who I could really count on than with 10 people who are smart and cute and funny, who I can't count on, who will abandon me when I'm vulnerable rather than support me when I'm vulnerable. In fact, I'd rather have one such person, one person who I could really count on, than 1,000 people who are neat, but who I can't count on. And in fact, I would rather have one person who I can really count on than 7 billion people who I can't count on. Just one. And the question for us in our lives, the most important question, is the first question, as I would put it, the first question is, do we have anyone in our lives who we can really count on? Do we have anyone in our lives who we can really count on, who we can really depend on? This is a very important question. And I would say that this is the first question. There is a second question, which is, am I such a person for anyone? But I would put that as the second question. The first question is, do I have anyone in my life? And as some of you may know, people are asked this question. There have been studies on this as well. 50 years ago, if the most common response to that question in this country, how many people do you have in your life who you can really count on? The most common response was 5. Most people had about 5 people who they could count on. Any of you know the most common answer today in the United States? 0. 0. 0. This is a disease. And what's most frightening is that then you have a culture that has created millions of people, over 100 million people in this country, who have no one who they feel they can count on, and we blame them as individuals. they become depressed and we say, you know, you have a problem. Your brain chemicals are messed up. That's the issue. And if we just fixed your brain, well, then you'd feel better. We have completely brought the problem not only to an individualistic level, but even something less human and less humane than that. The problem is now chemicals in a person. It's one part of a system in a body. But this is not the problem. I've been saying something a lot, which is very hard to believe, especially for individualists like us and materialists like us, hedonists like us. But I don't know what to do other than just say it a lot. And that is, there is such a thing as love. It's a real thing. It really exists. There is such a thing as love. And I know it's hard to believe, especially for us in our culture. We would like to believe it. It sounds good. It is important for us to know truly that it really exists and that we can really live by it. It's only by living by it that we will come to realize that it exists. We can have faith that it exists, but it's possible to actually live by it. And by living by it, we realize it. Love is realized. And in being realized, we save the world. We save the world. That's how it's done. So, I very much appreciate that all of you here have realized it. And how have you realized it? How have we realized it? By showing up here. Here we are. Here we are. We did it. We showed up. We're together right now. We are together. You can't deny it. You can't say that you haven't realized the importance of this, because you have. Here you are. You know it. You live by it. You got out of your bed or your couch or your whatever, and you went through the cold and you showed up. And here you are in the presence of other people. These are people who need you, and these are people who you need. We need each other. We can't do this alone. We're not going to do this alone. We're going to do this together. By being together, we're going to do this. And in fact, by being together, we're already doing it. Here we are doing it right now. It's happening. Please attend to that. Please give your attention to that. Please have faith in that. That this right here, of course you can always say, and probably a lot of people are progressives, and so I know it's our tendency to complain about everything. And so you're probably complaining that you're not doing enough, and I'm saying you're doing a good job, and you're saying, but not good enough. Okay, well, for a moment, just for a moment, rather than turning your attention to how you're inadequate, turn your attention to the fact that it is actually happening here right now. We did it. We showed up. We're physically together with friends. We did it. It matters. This is the part that matters. This is the good part. Right now. This is it. We found it. Please settle into that at least a little bit. And then we can all get back to complaining about ourselves. But for a moment, because there's value in that too. We can wish we were better people. There's value in that. But just for a moment, let's settle in to the love, to the friendship, to the community, to the connection that we have already established this evening. It is very good to be here with you. Settle into an awareness of your body. Pay attention to your body. And in particular, pay attention to what it feels like in your body to sit in a room together with others who also have bodies, who have also come here to sit together with you. What does that feel like in your body? For this part of the practice, just observe what it feels like. It's important to pay attention to all the feelings that come up. You may feel happy. You may feel grateful. You may feel secure and tranquil. And you may feel other things. You may feel trepidation. You may feel frightened. You may feel claustrophobic. You may feel sad, angry. For now, whether you feel peace, friendship, or fear, and insecurity, allow yourself to feel that right now. Allow yourself to feel it. If it's overwhelming, that's okay. You can think about something else for a little while. You can turn your attention elsewhere if it's too much. But after a little while, see if you can come back to how you're feeling in your body again. What does it feel like to sit together in community? What do you feel in your body? Give yourself a chance to experience that, whatever it is. Once again, attend to what it feels like in your body as you sit in community. There may be happiness and peace there. If so, allow yourself to feel that. There may be fear and insecurity there. And with that vulnerability, well, okay. Allow yourself to feel that too. We're here together. It's a little vulnerable. Okay. That's part of this. It would be safer to be alone behind a screen. Well, it's not entirely safe. Okay. There we are. We've all been hurt sometimes, but we've also all been loved sometimes, cared for. And whatever of all of that happens to be coming up right now, give yourself a chance to experience it. If you become distracted or tired, consider the possibility that something is coming to the surface, something about our relationships with others is coming to the surface that may feel a little overwhelming. And so you're naturally distracting yourself from that. That's fine. Feel free to do that. But if you'd like, lean back into that a little bit. See what's there. See what it is that may feel a bit overwhelming. It may be a negative emotion, but it also may be a positive emotion. In my experience as a meditation instructor, I find that while we tend to believe that we're striving for happiness, in fact, what we tend to strive for is familiarity. We tend to choose what we're used to. If we're not used to feeling love and connection to a certain extent, well then, if it comes up, we may turn away from it. But for now, invite it in. Whatever experiences are coming up as you sit together in community. It may be great happiness, and if so, invite that experience in. And it may be something else, invite that in as well. And now, if you'd like, change the technique just a bit. And rather than observing whatever comes up, intentionally bring up, intentionally cultivate a sense of friendliness and love for everyone who's sitting here with you. A true hope for their well-being. Naturally, include yourself in that. You're someone sitting here. Include everyone in that. Everyone sitting here together in this room. Intentionally cultivate the friendliness, the care and the concern, and cultivate it with the aim that it will cause you to change your actual behavior when interacting with the people in this room, whenever you happen to do that. It'll change the way you actually treat them. Love, you could say, is not just something that you feel, it's something that you do. It's important to feel, and it's important to do. So bring up the feeling with the intent that it will have an impact on action. And as you do that, please enjoy it. Taste the flavor, the sweet flavor of friendship. And to finish this part of the practice, extend that love and friendship out to all living things. We'll have the opportunity for a few minutes to continue this practice, bringing forth love and friendship for each other, and extending that out to all living things, while walking together in this space rather than sitting for just a few minutes, 3-4 minutes. Feel free, if you'd like, to get up, walk around. You may look at each other. There's nothing wrong with that. Continue the practice, and when I ring the bell again, we'll begin the second half of the meditation. good. In this part of the practice, we will bring up a sense of gratitude. Take some time to consider who in your life you can really count on. Who is it in your life who, when you can't defend yourself, when you're too weak, confused, helpless, to hold it all together and keep yourself safe, who in your life at that time will take care of you rather than, well, something else? Who will take care of you at that time? Of course, this is an exercise in gratitude, having identified that person, those people, will bring up gratitude, but this is also an exercise in discernment, because the most important questions in our lives are typically about this question. And we all know what it's like to decide that we can depend on someone who it turns out we can't. It's quite hurtful, and it can even feel like we can't trust anyone anymore. If we can't trust our own judgment around who's trustworthy, then who can we trust? So naturally, be careful. Do your best to choose whoever it is in your life who you can really count on. Of course, you can change your mind later if you'd like, but for now, with whatever confidence you have, whatever discernment you can muster right now, choose that person who you can really count on. Whoever it is that you can count on the most. Picture them in your mind and bring up a sense of gratitude for this most precious gift in your life. Once again, you don't need to like this person. You may dislike this person. The question is, when you're not easy to be around, will they stick around? They may not be fun, sweet, but are they trustworthy? Whoever it is in your life who you have like that, to whatever extent you have that, that's worthy of deep gratitude. Now let's turn that around a little bit and consider who is it who sees you that way? who looks at you as someone they can count on, they can trust, they can depend on. Again, this isn't a question of how smart you are, how cute you are, how fun you are, how sweet you are. That's not the question. Who is it in the world who looks at you as someone they can go to when they need it, when they are not fun to be around, when they're a mess, and trust that you'll do what's right for them? Gently, be gentle about this. Gently commit to doing whatever work it takes to being worthy of that trust. You can be as gentle about that as you'd like. This isn't a chance, and I know that many of us, including myself, may have a tendency to take this opportunity to criticize ourselves, recount the ways in which we're not worthy of that trust. For now, instead of that, this is a chance to engage the love that we have for these people, for this person, for whoever this is, and be motivated by it. We all have steps to take, and taking those steps is an adventure. So with a sense of love, self-confidence, and adventure, however gently you'd like to make that commitment to becoming worthy of that trust, in an even deeper way than we already are. And finally, to finish this period, acknowledge the fact that everyone wants to be able to trust you. Every living thing would like to look at you as someone trustworthy. Every living thing. So experiment. In what way, to what extent, with what creativity and adventure and love can we respond to that invitation, to that request from every living thing? This isn't so much a time to plan out actions as a time to deeply experience love for others and confidence in ourselves. Confidence that we can respond to that request. That we have that strength, and that when we commit in that way, a completely new world will open up. When we come to the point when we can see all living things, every person, and respond with the sentiment, "It's good to see you." We can be a person who is worthy of trust by all those beings. Such a world can open up. This is the time to practice faith, love, friendship, and adventure. And moving into that world, that community. So this is a time to interact as a community, as a group. So please feel free to ask questions, make comments, have conversation, whatever you'd like. Yes?
It took me a long time to get used to not looking at people during the movement break.
Yeah?
And it was a refreshing feeling to get a chance to look at people during the movement break.
Yeah.
And I just want to report that I had a wonderful connection with Shannon, who looked at me with so much love and connection. So I just wanted to say it worked.
Good. Good. Yes? Shannon?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yeah, I also had a wonderful, I did not realize how warm it was. So I guess my main reflection is when I was experiencing gratitude for that person who was there for me, and in the transition of realizing the way that I was there for another person, it was very direct, and there was a lineage there. Even the exact words that I had heard from that person I could rely on had influenced my values, such as because they treated it as a given, like you just do this and you care.
Yep.
And it was very clear that I could transfer that in the same way. And it just really brought to the forefront what you were saying about this being that exact thing that changes the world, because it did change my world, it changed me. So thank you.
Yep. That's the point. That's the shifting point. When the phrase you used was, it's a given. It becomes a given. Yep. Person comes to us and asks for it, and it doesn't occur to us. Shall I support you or not? That thought doesn't arise. It's a given. It's an immediate opening. Yep, that's it. That's it. Yes?
So I'm inclined to think that my experience of this outside of like, in just a lot of situations is a lot of impersonal factors sort of shaping these experiences. And so, like when I'm sort of thinking, well, what makes this happen? What gets in the way of it? With having this sort of relationship of, I guess, dedicated trust.
That's a good phrase.
There's, like, I think a lot of it has to do with, like, membership, kind of social membership kind of things. And
right.
So I struggle to have this relationship with communities of people, I think, and vice versa. And sometimes, so I think although on the one hand, the sort of, how cute you are or something doesn't really matter, on the other hand, it's sort of, there still is this question of like being in situations and places and having sort of social roles that allow the formation of these sort of relationships, or having enough to give to other people that of whatever sort of kind of transactionally creates these sorts of situations. So I also just sort of recognize that, and I just think that in situations where I can't perform in that way, it's a really painful and difficult process to go through, and I'm just sort of acknowledging that.
Absolutely. And it's good that you, of course, what you're talking about is a more complex way of looking at the situation than what I presented. And I'm glad that you bring up these various factors. especially around the point of membership and the transactions that are sometimes required of us in order to enter membership, so that, as you say, we can develop these relationships of trust, so that a space is created in which we can do that. So before I respond, I did understand what you said correctly. I was just repeating back some of it. Was that an accurate representation of what you were saying?
Yeah, I think so.
So yes, we human beings and spiritual communities in particular, I think, have been very skillful and creative in making this fake it till you make it structure. So membership, you create an artificial structure in which there are storylines that we kind of all agree to buy into, right? So we're a community. Well, we're the community. The community is just an idea that we all agreed to have. There's no, this physical space isn't our community. There's some mysterious thing called a community that we're a part of, yes? So here we are in some community. Why is it a community? Simply because we all agreed that there's a community. We all agreed to agree that this forms a community. And in that way, we've created, quote, membership in such a community. Is this absolute, true, unconditional love? No, it's a concept. But, as you say, it allows us to fake it till you make it. All you have to do to get in is just agree we're in. You don't have to develop the relationships to see who's really trustworthy and who isn't. And if I treat you well, you're going to treat me well. If I become vulnerable to you, you're going to take advantage of me. And then revealing all that about ourselves to others, that takes time and it's difficult. And so we create a kind of a container that is fabricated so that we have the opportunity to form those relationships, to really see each other. So the good news is it works pretty well. That's the good news. It's actually quite effective at what its purpose is. There's bad news too, as usual, and there are weaknesses. So the bad news, the weaknesses are that often these communities become, the boundary around them becomes very closed, and anyone who isn't in it becomes an enemy. And furthermore, you have to see things a very specific way, or you'll be punished according to some structure. So there are weaknesses. Well, okay, there are weaknesses. We know. There are weaknesses everywhere. It's not like big news, People kind of tell me sometimes, there are problems in religions or something, and I feel like, what are you talking about? I mean, I don't really know what to do. In the same way that I feel a little confused about what to do if a 7-year-old comes up to me and tells me there's no Santa Claus. Like, I don't really know how to navigate the situation. It's like, yeah, I actually know. It's good. I guess it's good that you know. And someday you'll realize that there actually is a Santa Claus. And we're just going to have to wait it out until you see that Santa Claus is a real thing. More real than we are. Love is real. And Santa Claus is just love. So good news, there's Santa Claus, and for now, I know there's no Santa Claus. In the same way people say, there's problems in these communities. Yeah, right, we know, we get it. But at a certain point, we see, okay, so we're gonna do something about that. We're gonna take advantage of the strengths, and we're gonna try to resolve the weaknesses. And as we resolve the certain weaknesses, we'll create other ones. Other people have to clean up after us. But nonetheless, we have a structure in which we are able to connect at all. And so we hope that in a community like this, we are creating a structure in which we can connect, first of all, so that we can give and take and start to see each other, practice loving each other, that we're able to bring up different perspectives, that the perspectives don't become more important than the love, and that furthermore, we never allow the boundary of the community to be anything smaller than all living things. The boundary, the group to receive the love is everyone. And that can be extremely challenging for many different reasons, but we acknowledge that challenge and attempt to rise to it. So I wasn't really attempting to respond to answer anything you said. I was just commenting. I was elaborating. Does that seem relevant and useful?
Yeah, I think so in general, but I also think that even like something like this particular environment is a fairly casual sort of environment in a certain way that it may facilitate a different level of connection at a more spiritual level, but it's just sort of, I'm thinking in just the level of social isolation versus participation, and the kinds of health effects and the kinds of other things that are there. I do think that like societally we have certain weaknesses with it.
Oh, yeah.
And I also think that it's also, I think sometimes they're just too invisible to people.
Yes, definitely. And extremely powerful. The big vision of what we're doing is to change the whole culture. That's my real goal. That's what we're trying to do. It's not a secret. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to completely change this culture, to revolutionize the basis of our relationships. Absolutely, that's what we're working on. That is what we're committed to completely change the way human beings interact with each other and all living things. That's our goal. Because the effects, as you say, for many of us are invisible, but they're nonetheless pernicious. And once they're seen, they're actually not invisible at all. Then they're very clear and obvious, and sometimes overwhelming. So we just say, okay, here goes. You know, we got to do something. So you can join a residential community. You can, if you want, we have that. If you want to personally experience a totally different culture, I know that's the seed. You can just move there if you want, live nearby. If you don't want to commit to the rigorous life that you have to commit to, if you want to join the monastic structure, you can come to these events on Sundays. You can get together for coffee, tea, but you can also go to other things, meet in other ways, other people. All of that is a part of what we're doing. So it's good that you bring it up, because it's social isolation is not only a source of great suffering in our society, it's actually very dangerous. It's dangerous to the world as a whole. Yeah.
How do you develop trustworthiness?
How do you what? Trustworthiness? Develop? Oh, how do you develop trustworthiness in yourself? You mean?
How do you cultivate in others to see us as trustworthy?
Oh, okay. So I think there are two questions, or maybe there's just one question. So you tell me. I think that the one question is, how do we cultivate trustworthiness in ourselves, period. But then there's another kind of question of, well, okay, but the way you said it, how do we cultivate other people seeing us that way? But I don't think that's the real question. Or are there two questions?
The second question, second part.
Oh, the second part? How do you make others see you as trustworthy? Oh, you just, it's easy. You just take advantage of their ignorance. You just trick them. You give them what they want. If they want something, you give it to them. You compliment them. Most people like compliments. You tell stories about how strong you are. It's actually very easy, and I mean, you could get a lot of power that way. I'd say study the current administration of this country. They're really good at this, and it's important to study them because they're really good at this. The current people who run the federal government. That group of people, they are really good at convincing people to trust them. So use their techniques. I study it. I watch them on TV. I'm impressed every time. I just can't believe how it's so good. It's so good, facts, truth. It's just completely subordinate to deception. It's fantastic how impressive they are at that particular skill. So that's how you do it. So now that I've answered that question, was that really your question?
That was it.
All right, good. Sure. Sure.
Get to their primal level, what they basically respond to.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly. I mean, basically people have three desires. There are three desires that run people's lives. The desire for sensual pleasure. People are hedonists. They want pleasure. Okay? People want to survive. People want to exist. And people want to be destroyed. People want to not exist. Okay? These are these three desires have been known for thousands of years to be the fundamental motivators in our lives. So, give people those things. People want something. They want this or that. So let them have it. Help them get it. Then they'll trust you. It's not legitimate trust. You're actually hurting them. But they'll trust you, which I think is your question, so I'm answering. They want to survive. Don't, by any means, ask them to grow, because that's the death of who they are. Yes? So help them to avoid personal growth. They'll love you if you do that. They'll trust you beyond everything. If you find ways to let them avoid growing as a person, especially letting them avoid seeing the consequences of their actions, yes, they're gonna think that you're God. And then finally, really mistreat them. Treat them badly. Let them know that they're worthless, and that they deserve to be abused and destroyed, eliminated. And if you do all those three things, people will trust you beyond anything. I hope someone will ask the other question, but maybe not. Maybe that's not part of this evening. Okay.
I do want you to answer that.
Oh, okay. Hold on a second, unless you were going to ask it. Okay. So the other question, if I'm not mistaken, is how do you develop trustworthiness in yourself? Yeah. This is harder to answer. This is a hard one to answer. But I can start on the answer. Let's put it that way. Okay? We can begin exploring this question. People, we want happiness. if we don't get it, and by happiness I mean something big. I don't just mean simple happiness, shallow happiness. I mean any kind of fulfillment, okay? We want to be fulfilled. We're going to want to be fulfilled, okay? It's important to face that. So that's the beginning of how do you become trustworthy. You really face the reality, okay? You have to face, first and foremost, the fact that you're going to seek out happiness, okay? If you have a kind of happiness that doesn't depend on external conditions, okay? If you have that, then you're free, you become free to do the right thing even if it hurts you. So the normal reason that someone asks us to help them, but we say no, is that helping them will cause us pain and it'll prevent us from getting happiness. Does that make sense?
Can you say it one more time?
Someone asks us for help and we say, actually, no, I'm not going to help you. We may say it in other ways, like, oh, I'd love to, but I'm busy. I have so much going on. But I'd love to help you some other time when you don't need it. So come back then. I won't be busy then. I'll be busy when you're a person who's fun rather than a mess. I'll be available. I'll be available for you when you're fun, but when you're a mess, I'll be busy, sorry. But as I say, I got a lot happening in my life. So what we're really saying is, I need happiness, and you're not providing that to me right now. And what I'd have to do to help you is going to be difficult. It's going to make me exhausted. It's not going to be inherently fulfilling. It's going to be tough. So it's essential that first and foremost, we have a kind of happiness that doesn't depend on those conditions, so that the person who comes to us and says, please help me, that we don't initially interpret that as, hi, I'd like to take away your ability to be happy. Does that make sense? So I'd like to do these things, but now I have to do this for you. So I can't do the things I wanted to do, so I won't be happy, so I don't want to help you. Therefore, I'm not trustworthy. You turn that around and you find a kind of happiness that you can have no matter what. And then you don't perceive them as a threat to that happiness. Okay? That's very important. And meditation can certainly help with that. You get a kind of happiness that people can't take away from you, whether they ask you to do what you don't want to do or not. Yes? So basically you find a kind of happiness that doesn't depend on being able to do what you want. Okay? So that's part one. All right? Part one is simply face the facts you want to be happy, find a kind of happiness that doesn't come only from doing what you want to do. Because for me, when I look at the people who I've trusted and have let me down, I can see that very clearly. That I was asking them to do something that they didn't want to do. So we have to get to the point when we're capable of doing what we don't want to do. And the way you do it is find a happiness that doesn't depend on you being able to do what you want to do. Okay? Having done that, you've taken a huge step forward. A huge step. Okay? That's step 3 in the system that I teach, which many of you don't know, but you can ask around. It's a huge step. Once you've taken that step, you can do 2 other things. Okay? Number 1, you can, and I shouldn't put it that way, because you can do these 2 other things even before you take that step. But taking that step greatly empowers you to do 2 other things. All right? I don't mean to say it as if it has to be linear in some way, but it will enable you, it will empower you in a different way. Okay? The 2 other things are, Number one, you can start to look at and become comfortable with your own discomfort. You can start to really face all the stuff that's going on inside of you. You can just face it. And one of the things that's hardest for me in teaching meditation is that so many people come to me and say, you know, I'm trying to meditate, but I'm anxious. I'm trying to meditate, but I'm tired. I'm trying to meditate, but I'm angry. I'm trying to meditate, but I'm distracted. As if, you see, the implication is that when all that junk is coming up, you're not meditating. But that's what meditation is for, to face all those things. Actually face those things is what it's for. And I know nowadays in our culture, meditation has been turned into some kind of weird, self-centered peace-mongering. You know, where I'm going to get so peaceful in my 10 minutes a day, and then I'll feel better. But see, this is the opposite. Oh, this is actually important information. What it's actually used for is actually the opposite. Because the goal is to have a kind of happiness that allows you to follow your conscience. But it's very easy to do the same thing but in an unethical way. And I have people come to me and ask for this, which goes like this. Hi, I'm living in a wrong way. I know that. I would like you to teach me to get a kind of happiness that allows me to be happy even while I continue to be an unethical person. That's what I see as a happiness independent of conditions. I want a happiness that's independent of my moral behavior. So can I please be a bad person who I hate and still be happy? So that is basically what modern practice has been used for, you know? And it's very frightening. So rather than that, we face the issues that we have inside. Yes, we face the ways in which we're not following our conscience. We face the obstructions to our wisdom. We face the ways in which we're afraid of love, right? We really face those things. If you're sitting in practice and all this junk is coming up, that doesn't mean you're not meditating at all. Note that just because it's coming up doesn't mean you are meditating. Yes? It's coming up and you're applying the technique to it. That means you're meditating. It doesn't, but anything could come up. Any number of things could be coming up, right? Happiness could come up, sadness could come up, any number of things could come up, and you apply the technique to it. And then you're going to work through it. So to face the things within, that's the next thing that you become capable of. And then finally, because of all that, you can start to clarify the ways in which you are and aren't trustworthy, work that out, find the ability to do things for people that are truly helpful to them. And once you've done that, then you can start to explore a new kind of happiness, which is the happiness of love, the happiness of service, so that you help someone and you gain nourishment, emotional heart nourishment from that. And then you're fed by compassion, rather than merely being wasted away, being torn apart, shredded, exhausted by empathy, by mere empathy. Yes? You're not just getting lost in the suffering of the world, you're eating the suffering of the world, and it strangely nourishes you by transforming into love. And you're the first person who benefits from that love. Right? We usually think, I wish people would love me. But that's actually not very dependable. Because you just hope that they stick around. But what about when they're not around? But if you love someone else, you're the first person who experiences that love. You get the nourishment first. Right? You're the primary beneficiary of your love for someone else. They also get it, so that's good. But they're not the primary. So that's the beginning of a very important question. I would say, though, that the question you're asking is the whole question. Everything we do in this community is about answering that question, or should be. That's our hope. This is the place where we strive to become trustworthy. That's what we're doing. And all of us are striving in that direction. And by being here in community, we're we're called on our stuff, and we see the mistakes we've made and the ways we can do better, and we hopefully are appreciated for the ways in which we're succeeding, and in that way we learn from our relationships. Okay, so there's 1 minute for your question and answer.
Okay, going back to the mission of wanting to completely change the culture, but what do we want to keep?
We want to keep?
Yeah, what do we want to keep about culture?
In 1 minute? There's a lot of stuff to keep, right? A lot of good things in our culture. We would keep, a sense of respect, sense of that freedom is important, sense of our culture is actually pretty good at being skeptical, looking for we have a mixed record, but one of the things that we do pretty well is look for evidence. It's mixed, but it's something that we at least pride ourselves on. What else is good about culture? You mean modern culture?
I think I mean the culture you were. American.
Yeah. So, well, yeah. I don't just mean American, but yeah, the modern culture.
I guess I only asked the question because to avoid pessimism and.
Yeah, it's a good question. You could add. Do you have any?
The American dream, she says.
Yeah, the American dream is good, actually. It's a good one. It would be good if we kept on striving for that. We're not succeeding necessarily, but we should strive for the idea that you can succeed, whoever you are.
That all people are created equal.
Yeah, the sense, whatever that sentence means. I don't know if you know the history of that sentence, but it's very complicated. And the founding fathers, as we say, really struggled with that particular phrase. So yeah, I think the thing that they were pointing at is very good. Not that. It is the case, if we look, we do see a gradual expanding circle of compassion. I think that that's true. We do see it's gradual, it's slow, but actually it is the trend over centuries. The sense that we can do stuff. That's actually very, very interesting. We believe that we can do things. That isn't true everywhere. And of course here is only partially justified as everywhere, but still it's a very interesting sentiment. Let's see. Yeah.
The other one is the idea that we can rely on reason or discussion to figure stuff out.
Exactly.
Prior to conflict.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly right.
Has a right to speak.
Yep. That's exactly right. That you're demonstrating. So it's good. I think a sense that we do have a sense of trust which is deteriorating very quickly. So it's something that I think is worth mentioning. We used to anyway, and we still do to a certain extent, have a sense of trust in our government, in our values. We can go outside and say hi to someone and feel confident that we won't be shot. That's not true everywhere. So that's good that we have that sense of trust in each other and in the structure and in the government. So yeah, that's important to preserve even through the process of transformation. Because to not preserve that is very dangerous. So it's good that we're doing that. Was that sufficient?
Things, yeah.
Okay. Well, there's more, but it's a good question. It's a very good question. And it's true, we shouldn't get too lost in pessimism.